Hello everyone, we come back again. In previous video, we just introduced a new word, which is a frequency for this case, and we know that we can use frequency to figure out the period, and there is a certain special relation between period and frequency. So what we are going to do for this one is in this video, we are going to use several examples to figure out the relation between the frequency and period. Let's see the first one. So without graphing, let's figure out what are the key features of this graph. So first, amplitude. Remember, amplitude is 1. We talk about the how high and how low for the wave goes. So it's well use a number in front of this, but remember the amplitude is always positive, so we only choose the positive part is 3. And also the midline, which will control how the wave is up and down around the line here, the middle position here, which is determined by 4. But if you put 4, that would be mistake because we need to put it as equation y equal to 4. The last is a little bit different before because the period will be determined by the number in front of x, which is 2. But you cannot say the period is 2 because this is actually frequency. This number tells us in one cycle, in one given period, which is 2 pi, we have 2 cycles in this 2 pi. So that's why the period is actually 2 pi over whatever the number here. We cancel the 2 here, so which is pi. So how do we graph it? So that's why exactly we use this information can easily tell us to graph. First, we know the midline is 4. I think I didn't make a good choice for this. Okay, so let's connect it. Since it's a 4, so I'm going to put a little bit up here. So the midline is 4, that means the graph is going to around this line. And also amplitude is 3, that means I can go down 3, so that will be my lowest point around this line. And this will be, so go up 1, 2, 3. That means we'll go up here. So the range will go up and down like that. And also next is the period is as pi. So that means I'm going to see one cycle is pi. Okay, so that's how the graph. And also one thing before we start graphing, be careful, this is negative. It's a sine. So supposed to be sine wave supposed to look like this, right? However, since this situation is negative, so it's going to opposite. So that's why it will go down. Remember, the lowest one can go 1 and to up to 7, and then, okay, it's a little bit awkward here, and go here to pi. So it's just 2 until the pi. So that's one cycle. And in the middle position is half of this is going to be pi over 2. Okay, so this is one cycle. The highest one cannot go beyond 7. The lowest one cannot go beyond 1. Of course, you can continue, but the one cycle will be enough to tell us how the wave goes. Okay, so next is a little bit tricky. So this time we only have graph, but we are going to write an equation. The process is actually very, very similar. We are going to figure out the period, we're going to figure out the amplitude, we're going to figure out the midline, and then we just need to plug in a number here. So let's check. The first thing is midline. Whatever the number you can start is, you can start with amplitude or whatever. So midline is a stay like in between. So if we go from the top, go in middle, and bottom to the middle, so it's actually here. So that's why this is our midline, and this is our y equal to -1. So midline, y equal to -1. So we know the c part is going to be -1. Remember, this is y equal to a sine or cosine x. We can leave it here, depends later, plus c. And remember, this time we put a number in front of x, which is b, the frequency, plus c. So we know c here. So now we have like basic thing is a number in front of this. We don't know that, and we don't know sine, but let's keep the parentheses since it's -1, so we can put a -1 here. And then so we can see now we have midline, we can see the amplitude, which is go up 1, 2. So amplitude is 2, so we need to put a 2 here. But remember, we still need to put a sign in the end to determine it's go up and down. So that's it. So since, starting with midline, where do we start? It goes up. So I know it's going to be positive, so we don't need to change the sign here. And since, the graph starting with midline here, so we know it's sine. So the last part is going to be the number in front of x, which is going to be, we call it frequency. So we use, remember before we mentioned period is 2 pi over frequency. And also frequency can be also, we rewrite this is going to be 2 pi over p, the period. So let's figure out the period first. So period is here is 1 cycle, which is 4 pi. So that means the period here is 4 pi. But you cannot just put a 4 pi here. It's not going to work. The relation has to go follow 2 pi over the period, 4 pi. So we can cancel the pi, and 2 over 4 can be simplified as 1 over 2. So that means frequency is 1 over 2. That's a number we are going to put in front of this. So that's it. That's our equation for this function. Okay, so let's see one more example. Okay, so this time we're going to check this graph. Very similar to the process we had before. We figure out the midline. Personally, I think once we have midline, we know where do you go up and down, so it's easy to find out the amplitude. So midline is the middle position. You can try to go from, you can even try to use 2 pencils, one going from top, one going from the bottom until they meet in the middle. And we know it's actually from here. That's our midline. So which is y equal to 2. Again, the function is, we don't know sine, cosine yet. We don't know what number in front. We put something with x. We still might have number in front of x. And then we know it's a plus 2 because it's midline. Then the amplitude is going to go up 1, 2, 3. So we know amplitude is 3. You can also go bottom 1, 2, 3, same thing. So we know it's going to be in front of 3. Remember, you still need to figure out this cosine sine. In previous lesson, we mentioned the way I did it, I checked midline. If you go starting with midline, the most likely is going to be sine. If it didn't, I will consider it's cosine. But the cosine is always, for example, it's midline here, and the positive cosine go from the top to the bottom. It's like this. This is positive cosine. But if the midline is here, but it go from the bottom, then go up. If it go from the bottom, then we will consider it negatives. As you can see, this is the midline, and they start with go bottom. So that's why I'm going to say this is a negative. So let's put a negative sign in front of this. I know it didn't start with midline here, so we know it's cosine. So the big part for this is going to be what is a frequency in this case. So let's check. What is one wave, one cycle we need to consider? So that's a different color. So one cycle, I always starting with, where we start here is starting with 0 because it's easy to calculate this. So this is one cycle. And the period is talking about the distance between the horizontal distance for one cycle, which is 4. So the frequency for this is 4. And remember, it's not frequency, it's period. So the period, one cycle takes up 4 units, so the period is 4. So in this case, it's actually very interesting because we do not have pi here, but nothing wrong with it. So the number in front of x is actually frequency. So remember, frequency is 2 pi over period, which is 2 pi over 4. So we just need to, so you may wonder, how do we simplify that? Do not forget we only have a number here, so let's simplify. 2 over 4 is going to be simplified as 1 over 2, but do not forget pi. So that's why in this case, the frequency is 1 over 2 pi, so 1 over 2 pi. Or some students want to prefer to write it as -3 cosine, instead of 1 over 2 pi, but pi over 2, which is also fine because they are equivalent fraction plus 2. And that's it. That's our final equation here. Doesn't matter which one you use, they are equivalent. That's how do we use all the features here to figure out equation. I hope this video is helpful. See you soon. Take care, everyone.